Rohan's Corner, working overtime, recording fine, that's just prime. Super reviews, which will neutralize Hasbro's wave of crimes. Magic Square to the rescue, and New Age has got such super paintwork. Rohan is the mighty power that can save the day. Rohan, no one knows what lies behind his wall of fame. Rohan, always riding hard on Hasbro's trail. Come see the memes he plays every Friday.
Everyone, and welcome back to the Corner of Rohan. And this week I am talking about a post that I saw on TF Unlimited on Facebook, which was all about a guy on YouTube and his wife watching Transformers the movie 1986 for the very first time. And it blossomed a lot of discussion, which understandably it would, from the Transformers community, because these are non-Transformers fans who liked the Michael Bay movies and were urged by masses of people on their reviews of those movies to go and watch the 1986 movie. Now, we all know what a massive cult hit and huge following the Transformers 1986 movie has amongst Transformers fans and the community, but how does it play within the larger universe of the masses out there in terms of moviegoers and entertainment? Well, some people were a bit baffled by the fact that these two didn't know any other characters and didn't have appreciation for some of their capabilities or some of the voice acting or some of the personas that were portrayed in the series, didn't know whether or not they were goodies or baddies, were a bit baffled by the fact that there were so many robots and not so many human characters, although they did kind of like that, which is a positive, and so on and so forth, and the fact that the storyline was so fast moving and pitched with various different subdivisions of Transformers in Dinobots, Insecticons, Sharkticons, Quintessons, and you name it, they were there. So I thought I would do a little video today to talk about how those people outside of the community view us as Transformers fans, and also specifically the Transformers the movie and cartoon series, considering the other types of media that have been put out there for Transformers and other franchises with the likes of Marvel Universe and all the other bits and pieces that people seem to know and love in the world today, especially Marvel because it's so huge, right, in comparison to Transformers. And if we look at Transformers specifically, let's talk about the G1 cartoon. I think there's definitely some sort of mindset out there that people who are not fans of Generation 1 or people who are not fans of Transformers in general think that this is a cartoon based on a toy line and was built to sell toys. And for me, that is completely, while it may be accurate, it is completely wrong, because actually the cartoon brought us a huge amount of lore and education and also entertainment factor, and built the characters up for me from the ground up and gave us some of those really intense voice capabilities in the voice acting that added to those characters' personas. And I think that without the G1 cartoon, Transformers would obviously not be where it is today. The Diaclone toy line was fantastic, but it needed transformation into something to be able to beat GoBots for a start, but also to become the legacy that we've had for the last 40 years. And then if we talk about the Transformers the movie, because realistically Transformers the movie 1986 is a big enough epic in itself to stand alone, in my opinion. I don't know how you all feel about that, but I think that if you were to go out and say, hey, to someone on the street or a friend of yours not into Transformers, you should really just check out this one Transformers thing. If you're talking about Generation 1, then I would go and steer them towards the movie, because it's an all-encompassing, fast-paced action battling, real epic. It's got a bit of everything. There's life, there's death, there's fighting, there's evil robots, there's a planet that turns into a robot. What more do you need? It's really thought-provoking if you think about the various different storylines that are all in play at the same time. And we're talking about the creators as a new entity. Unicron is a brand new entity, an evil baddie. So much going on, it's ridiculous. However, I can see from the outside perspective that there is a lot going on. If you don't have a clue, who is Optimus Prime and who is Megatron, who are all the rest of the Transformers, you will be lost from the first sort of get-go. And so I understand that aspect of it. What I don't understand is where they start querying, well, why is this happening and why is that happening? In a world of fantasy and science fiction, anything can happen. And so, realistically, people need to be a bit more open-minded, in my opinion. But hey, that's down to them. Overall, what I wanted to say today is that I feel that these two who had watched this film out of the blue hadn't really got any idea as to what Transformers was all about, with the exception of maybe Optimus Prime and Bumblebee being the only two characters that they knew, maybe Megatron. And then at the same time realizing that this is a different ecosystem, a totally different world to the Michael Bay movies that they'd been watching, hopefully has opened their minds to the fact that Transformers is not just about the Shia LaBeouf nonsense and all that Megan Fox rubbish, all the derivative kind of useless jokes that were put in and the stereotypical characters, but realistically about some very deep and fresh characters that were built in the 1980s around a forward-thinking kind of concept in terms of robots that could think and feel and act for themselves, coming to Earth from outer space, and then the subsequent series which touched upon all the planets in which they visited and all the world in which they tried to, universe that they tried to, help in many ways, as well as their conflicting battles internally. Obviously, Transformers has a big following, otherwise we wouldn't be getting so many toys all around the world from various different manufacturers, official and third party, and having this boom that we're having at the moment. However, it's still got a ways to go to catch up in the entertainment industry with the likes of Marvel, and I don't think, to be honest with you, the way in which they're going is going to get there, especially with what we're seeing from Rise of the Beast coming out so far, being so far from Bumblebee. But hopefully it's getting enough of a following that it's going to actually include more people to bring onto the Transformers bandwagon into the community and become fans. And as they do so, educate them into actually enjoying Generation 1. And I realize that some people are going to be like, what is this old crap? It's really old school and doesn't really look decent and hasn't got really today's storylines, or it isn't childish enough. But hopefully at the same time there are a few people who go through and say, wow, this is really amazing. For the 1980s, this is great. And even for today, if you compare it to cartoons that are out there today for kids shows, it's way better in my opinion. But hey, that's for them to decide. How do you all feel? When my wife watched Transformers the movie for the first time, she was lost after about 5 or 10 minutes. She didn't know who was who. She didn't know what was going on. She needed constant reiteration as to who this character is, what they're doing, why they're fighting, where they're going, who this other person is, what happened to X, Y, and Z character when they were blown up, and so on. And therefore, it was a bit difficult. But I think overall the experience was decent. And as a movie-going entertainment package, I think most people do find it entertaining compared to some other films which have nothing going on whatsoever. Anywho, that's this week's of Rohan's Corner. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts here on the show. Write into the boys and tell them how it is. And keep on watching. For another week, I've been Rohan. Catch you again next week. Back to the studio.
Transformers, Rohan's in disguise.